I did say I would update you guys regarding the news of Honkai Star Rail whenever it drops, and we'll be having a double relic drop event going on. So definitely look forward to that. I personally will be going for pieces for Topaz from the fire set, assuming that she builds that set. Hopefully. Hopefully my farming is not a waste of time. Anyways, let's get into the video. So I really wanted to make this video, and we'll be talking about all of the upcoming characters from 1.3 to 1.4. I of course can't go in great into detail because, as you know, leaks are prohibited. So the path of destruction is a path that's going to become better in near future. The reason being is because we'll have more options available in the path. But as you all know, the few options we do have, half of them being not that good, not as viable as the other half. The other two destruction characters being extremely good. And it makes a lot of sense given their 5 stars, whereas the 4-star options in the path aren't really usable in many scenarios. So, we can expect a character like Den Heng and BB2 Lunai to be on par with the current characters we have of the destruction path that are 5-star. Blade is a character that for many people is a comfort character. He works really well in any composition you want to put him in because he's a character that doesn't burn your skill points. He also doesn't necessarily provide skill points, but he's a character that, just like I said before, is very comfortable for many people. You give him a ton of HP, you give him a ton of defenses, and you give him crit damage. He's able to lose his HP, but he's also able to gain more HP, thus being a character that is very self-sufficient. He also works pretty well with other characters like Luocha, who can heal him whenever he needs it. And I think these two characters have more value in the future when we talk about characters that are coming in the path as well, which we'll get later on into the video. The problem is a character like Arlen hasn't really had his power to shine. However, if there was a character that could allow this character to do better, I would expect that character to essentially enable him to do more damage because that character may or may not drain his HP. But even then, is he really going to deal a considerable amount of damage to all the other options we have in the game? I mean, just look at Blade. I understand Blade is a limited 5-star and Arlen is a 4-star standard character. So you can't really compare an apple to an orange. I guess in this case, it's not necessarily apple to an orange. It's like comparing an apple to a banana. Except that the banana belongs to Blade. Pause though. So elemental coverage is a great thing. The more elements you have in your party, the more you're able to take advantage of the weakness break mechanic in the game, thus having a really strong combat advantage whenever you take on battles in Honkai Star Rail. That's pretty much the motto of the game. You break the weakness of the enemy and trigger the weakness break effects, and that gives you an advantage in the battles. That's just how you play the game. But it also comes with consequences. He may be a part of an element that may not suit him. The best thing about Den Heng is that he belongs to the imaginary element, meaning he's able to have one of the strongest weakness break effects in the game. You're able to delay the enemy's action, which puts them down in the turn order, and you're also able to reduce their speed, which pushes them even further in the turn order because they will take a turn slower than the other enemies or the allies in your party, thus being a very strong weakness break effect because you get in more damage, more DPS, because the enemy will be slower and be lower in the turn order. He may also be the first character to utilize a character like Yukong well, and the reason being is a lot to explain. You have to understand how much Yukong provides in her kit, and her being a character that could help destruction characters mainly. And the reason being is because Den Heng and BB2 Lunai we know is a destruction character, but he's also his imaginary element. So a character like Yukong might be perfect for him. Let me explain. Destruction characters are some of the hardest characters to build on Honkai Star Rail. You need some HP, you need attack, you need crit rate, you need crit damage. So having a character that needs so many stats, and if they're not Clara, then of course they want speed. You have a character that is pretty hard to build, and that's because the destruction characters are flexible in most of their team compositions. A character like Den Heng may break that trend of being a flexible destruction character, and the only reason being is because if you look at him, he looks like a character that isn't necessarily going to be a tank or bruiser style character. However, Yukong provides so many stats to characters that need many stats, such as the destruction characters. Yukong provides crit rate, crit damage, she also provides attack, and she also provides an imaginary damage boost, all of which is very beneficial for a character like Den Heng that is a damage dealer that probably scales off of attack, also is imaginary element, thus getting more damage from Yukong, and also is a destruction character, so crit rate and crit damage is much more valuable on that character. Just like how Asta provides a fire damage increase to all allies, Yukong provides an imaginary damage deal increase by all allies. It is slightly lower than Asta's increase by 18%. I don't know why Yukong's is not 18% as well. It seems kind of weird, but 12% is a high increase nonetheless. And since she is a part of the Harmony path, she's able to utilize a very nice light cone to have an imaginary team. a team where you have 4 imaginary characters or even 3, and able to use Silver Wolf in that same party. But essentially, you're able to increase the damage of allies that are of the same element of the character equipping this light cone, in this case, imaginary damage boost for every single imaginary character in the team comp. So it's easy to see how Den Heng has a lot going for him. He might be the first character to utilize a character like Yukong because he's of the destruction path. He can utilize a lot of the buffs she provides, and she's imaginary just like him. So these two would go hand in hand in breaking the weakness of the enemy. Because as you all know, it doesn't matter who you use to break the weakness of the enemy with imaginary. You just want to get in as many hits as you can to their toughness bar, kind of like Quantum essentially, just to proc the weakness break effect, not necessarily a dot like you would in Lightning. Because Lightning, you would want a character like Kafka to proc it, because she is probably going to have more break effect than your characters on average, most of the time. However, we also do know that Xuan is a character that is coming in the same hatch. So a character like Den Heng might be a little less enticing for any player that is of the quantum enjoyment. You see, Den Heng is imaginary and Xuan is quantum. It's almost like it's a light versus dark situation. And I am a fan of dark, and maybe you are too. And that would explain why you might have a character like Silverwolf, whom is a benefit in the same party with a character like Xuan. Let me tell you why. Silverwolf is able to utilize the mono composition feature in the game, or the feature she added whenever since her release in Honkai Star Rail. You slap that quantum weakness on the enemy and you can lower the resistances alongside reducing the resistances even further because of Silverwolf's existence in the team composition. You have a very skill point positive character that works virtually well with any character in the game, but in the mono quantum team exclusively, you can put a character like QQ in the same team and not have to worry about burning up as many skill points with your other supporting characters. A defense down for 3 turns is a very long time. By the time you get your energy back to your ultimate, you'll be able to put down that defense down on the enemy again, having 100% uptime on it. And you are able to reduce either the attack, the defense, or the speed, all of which is very beneficial in a team composition where you're probably going to be playing with a character that doesn't really have any way of mitigating much damage like the rest of the characters, if we're going off of what the grapevine tells me. I'm going towards a dangerous path here. So you can understand why a character like Xuan will probably be really valuable if you have a character like Silverwolf, because you're able to constantly put that quantum weakness on the enemy. And Xuan will also be the defensive option you need in the mono team composition. So for many players, a team comp like this will be very valuable, because you're able to play the game with your brain off. You can put the game into auto mode and not have to ever bat an eye. You also have what is an element that is never doomed to fail, and the reason being is because Silverwolf is able to put the quantum weakness on the enemy with a 100% chance, which is very valuable if you take into consideration the RNG element behind having another additional different element into the team composition like Jeopard. Thus, it would be a 50% chance of putting that quantum weakness on the enemy, even if you have 1 ice character and in this case 3 quantum characters, as crazy as that sounds. So Xuan would be the defensive option in this comp. So you would be able to have that last quantum character you needed in order to have that 100% chance of putting that weakness break effect on the enemy. And if we follow recent trends of limited characters, we also know that a character like Xuan will be the best preservation option. Jeopard is a very valuable character, but he's also a character that many people have at this point in the game. If you are constantly losing your 50-50 like me, then you probably will have obtained the character at some point. But you maybe got the character on the standard banner, or you maybe got the character on your 300 selector pity. That is if you rolled on the banner, and I don't suggest that for most players in the game. However, we understand that as Xuan being the first limited preservation option, she probably will power creep Jeopard in many ways. And that is because if we follow the trend of limited characters as of recently, they've been very strong and very oppressive. Every single one of them. The only one I can think of that isn't as strong is Jingliu. But the truth is, he's a character that is always going to be valuable because I have not put this video out, so let me not even mention that. Kafka is a character that puts a debuff on enemy. Jingliu doesn't put any debuffs on enemy. Always remember that. At some point, the enemies can have some immunity buff to where they can't be debuffed. And at that point, he would have more value than a character like Kafka. But that is a different video for a different time. And as you can see, a character like Xuan would be much more valuable than a character like Jeopard, especially in the mono quantum team composition. So lastly, a character like March 7 kind of double dips into the Harmony path. She has a cleanse on her elemental skill, which is very valuable for a preservation character. So you can expect Xuan to provide buffs in a way that differentiates herself from the cast of preservation characters. while also doubling, maybe even tripling in other paths. I expect her to provide some team-wide buffs, some buffs that would allow your characters to do more damage. I think that'd be very valuable as a preservation character if you look at the mono team comp and you realize there isn't any harmony character in the team comp. So that means that defensive option needs to provide buffs to the team because you have to make up for 2 slots of a harmony character and a defensive option. If you are Seal main, you'll be happy to hear Xuan is the character you need. And the reason being is because she'll be the last option you need in the mono team comp. Oh, and I guess QQ too. If you're a QQ main, don't worry, I didn't forget you exist. Wait, why is the whole mono team composition short? That's kind of... I mean, Genshin does have the short and emo boys. Anyways, one of the cool things is finding out that Topaz is actually of the hunt path, thus being a character that excels in single target damage. We also understand that she is a fire element, meaning she's going to be able to utilize one of the best supporters in the game. So she's a character that is not ever going to be doomed to fail. She has so much backing up behind her, and she's of an element that is needed, very needed, in the path of the hunt. You will find a lot of value in a character that is of the hunt path, and the reason being is because they do the most damage in single target settings of any path of any character. But remaining on task here, E6 Silverwolf is not achievable for most players in the game. That is a $1,000 upgrade to all of the hunt characters. I don't think most of you want to spend $1,000 on a character. Topaz being a character that doesn't cost $1,000 to roll for one time, hopefully. You have a character like Asta who is able to provide many buffs to that character. You see, Topaz is a character that is of the fire element. Asta is a premier fire buffer, also a premier hunt buffer, a premier everyone buffer. She does it all. Speed buff for all allies, an attack buff for all allies as well that doesn't go away even if she is CC'd by the enemy, an 18% fire damage bonus for all allies on the field, which is more than Yukong's 12% imaginary damage bonus. In the team composition with Topaz, she's able to give a further damage increase of the fire element to Topaz than any other character that is of the fire element in the party, which is very valuable for a character that wants to do as much damage as she can. So in the hyper carry setting with Topaz, you probably will want to have this light cone on your Asta, giving many buffs to Topaz. And if you take in the fact that she is a character we all get for free, she's the first character you get in the game. So you're able to utilize the best free-to-play option you can use in the game alongside your Topaz, whom we know will probably work with any character that is of the harmony path. And the reason being is because she's hunt. And hunt characters utilize a character like Asta really well. They can utilize an offensive debuffer really well like Silverwolf, and they can utilize an offensive buffer like Bronyo really well as well. Topaz is a character that will benefit many of you, and I understand that she has the best looks in the game. Or at least to me. So that is part of the reason why I'm rolling for that character versus all the other characters in this video. But she's going to be a very nice character you can use with pretty much any harmony buffer, any offensive debuffer, and any character you want to use with the character essentially. Because as we all know right now, I don't expect her to be as skill point hungry as a character like Seal. Maybe she would be, and that wouldn't be bad either. Because, well, the options we have in the game right now are geared towards having very skill point positive kits. And you can have a character that's skill point hungry in the party anyways and be okay. So it's not that bad. Lastly, the light cones we have for the path of the hunt is really valuable. Crit damage bonus for the ally is very good. You also get a crit rate bonus whenever you don't crit on the enemy, but that's not really valuable on a character that probably attacks with her little trotter, her little Numby. That's the name, Numby, Trotter. So I expect the Numby to hit like one time. So you probably wouldn't find a lot of value in the light cone like this, but the crit damage boost is very good, and it being a 5-star light cone is also really good. You get higher base stats than 4-star light cones. But even if you don't have that light cone, you have one of the best free-to-play options in the game. You get a ton of crit rate for your damage dealer, and you also get an attack increase whenever you kill an enemy. And lastly, the light cone for Su Sheng is very valuable in any hunt character. You're getting a super strong damage bonus increase whenever you attack the enemy consecutively. And if we take into consideration Topaz and Numby are two characters that are probably going to be working alongside each other, you have for what is a character and a little trotter, a little pet, that is going to be attacking the enemy with different sequences. Thus, you're proccing and stacking this light cone more and more and more, and quicker, more effectively. So that'd be very valuable for a character like Topaz. I probably will use this on mine. Maybe you're not a fan of characters with blazing personalities. Maybe you like your chicks to be kuderes, very cold-hearted creatures. I guess you can't really describe a character like that because you guys would kill me. But Jingliu is a character that I think many of you would enjoy. She's of the ice element, meaning she's going to be a character with different coverage that we don't already have in the Path of Destruction. And we have that in other paths, but they're not very good. So let's just say we're in need of a very strong ice damage dealer that isn't as conditional as a character like Yang Qing. So of course me having Pela on the screen means I have to talk about her. But Pela is a character that is very valuable for any character of the ice element. She's very valuable for any character because she provides a defense down on the enemy for 2 turns as an AoE. She also provides a decrease in the enemy's ice resistances, which is very valuable for a character like Jingliu because we know she's of the ice element. So a character like Pela would be very valuable. Destruction characters have some slight AoE in their kits, which means that you would take advantage of the defense down that is provided by Pela. And now you have more of a reason to use Silverwolf's Light Cone. Maybe you already have this on your Silverwolf and you don't use a DPS Light Cone on your Silverwolf. I get that 100%. But having this Light Cone on your Pela means you can get your ult much more consistently. And for a character that has the ult every 2 turns, you probably want to get this as quickly as you can on your Pela, allowing you to be able to constantly lower the defenses of the enemy. It's very valuable. So as I said before, she is able to lower the resistances of the enemy with her elemental skill, which is very valuable because you also remove a buff with that elemental skill. But most people probably have Eidolons for your Pela right now. So most people would have this Eidolon, and that's why I decided to include it in the video. So Jingliu is of a different element in the destruction path, meaning Jingliu is going to be the opposite of a character like Hook. Hook provides burns on the enemy while being a character that is able to do adjacent damage with the elemental skill, but do very strong single target damage. We can attest that a character like Jingliu would probably have quite a bit of AoE in her kit. I would expect her to have more AoE than a character like Hook, while also being of the ice element. So she's of a desperately needed element in a desperately needed path. Herta is a character that can get the job done for whenever you need an ice damage dealer in AoE situations. But she's a character that takes a lot of effort to build, a lot of stats to build. And for most players, you can't really build a Herta. And for most players, you can't build a Herta really well. Dude, what the heck just happened to my screen? I'll probably include that in the video as a blooper or something. Herta just like broke my screen. Ice has a pretty strong weakness break effect alongside Quantum, and the reason being is because you're able to put CC on a target. You freeze the enemy target, meaning they're not able to do anything. They're not able to take action. They're not even able to counterattack you if they had a counter in their kit. Just like we have Mono Quantum with Silverwolf, I expect there to be a very strong destruction team with Jingliu. Blade is able to utilize a relic site in the game that is primarily tailor-made for him. You're able to increase your crit rate whenever you have your HP consumed by an ally, or you consume your own HP. And if a character like Jingliu is able to do that, or maybe a character in the future, that character would have a lot of value in the same team composition with Blade. So that means a character would be really good in a full destruction team, because you'd be able to utilize this on your Blade even more because you'll have the 100% uptime on it really at the start of the battle. Next up, we have Luocha, and he's a character that has not really been able to be utilized perfectly. The reason being is because he's a character that overheals. He has so much healing in his kit. We don't need as much healing as he provides right now, it's just way too much. But if there was a character that was able to drain the HP of Blade, while also being able to drain the HP of all the other allies, then all of a sudden Luocha's stonks increases, and he becomes the most valuable character in that team composition. Because his all of a sudden overhealing that is too much would be just enough healing for that team. But that's all I'm going to say about Jingliu and the rest of the characters that are not released yet. We don't want anything to happen to poor Toshi's channel. That would be absolutely devastating. So there you have it. There's 4 characters coming in the near future of Honkai Star Rail, and I can attest and say that they're characters that are going to be great, just like Kafka, Blade, Luocha, Seal, and Silverwolf. Then Heng and BB209 is going to be the first imaginary damage dealer. I think for many players that is going to be awesome. Then you have Xuan, who is going to be the defensive option much needed in the mono team composition with Silverwolf. And the reason being is because Xuan is a preservation character, which means that she's obviously going to be a defensive character. Then you have a character like Jingliu, who is going to be very valuable in a team composition, maybe or may not, with a character like Luocha. Now I will say, we don't know much about Jingliu right now, and that's because not much has been revealed about her or Topaz. But with her being a destruction character, we can at least say she'll be a damage dealer of some sort. If we look at Den Heng and see how much damage he's able to do, like from his trial run, then you understand that he's a very strong character. So it's easy to understand that a character like Jingliu will be a very powerful DPS when she's released. And that is because she is a waifu as well. I don't think they would make a bad waifu character. I mean, look at Kafka. And lastly, Topaz, the character I'm most excited for. Obviously, I'm pulling for aesthetic reasons alone because I am a firm believer in ideology. But if you're not like me and you want a hunt DPS character of the fire element, then this will probably be the character for you. And if you like playing around with Pokemon like characters, or should I say a Pokemon trainer and her little Pikachu, then I think this character will especially be for you. Thank you for watching. This was a very long video and my voice hurts. I'll see you all in the next video. Have a good rest of your day or night. Peace. God dang, dude. Bronya looks really nice right now. I'm sorry.
Shut your
So playing with this comp allows you to play with your brain off. You see, you have what is a comp. What is wrong with me? I also didn't realize this was Jingliu in the light code. That's very interesting. Oh, I guess I said you want to get this as fast as you can, but I didn't take into consideration Toshi, you idiot. The event is over. You can't get the light code anymore.